Aditya Gautam, man, good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too.
It's a pleasure. We're just getting to know each other a little bit, and you said you were born in Delhi.
Yes.
You now reside in Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah.
You're an Indian-born stand-up comedian. Let's take it back to the beginning, man. I mean, born in Delhi. Where does your stand-up comedy influence come from? Perhaps I'm ill-educated. Is there a big stand-up scene in India? What was the first time you remember seeing stand-up comedy?
Man, first time. This you'll get this answer from almost every Indian who's over 30 years old, doing stand-up or not doing stand-up. First time was Russell Peters.
Russell Peters.
He broke it for India, man. That was the first time we got to know about stand-up comedy, because it was just the perfect timing, because I think it was early 2000s when he released that first special in Canada, and it was just when internet was becoming a thing in India.
Right.
It was like even middle-class homes were beginning to get decent speeds, and it just then that comes in and it just blew everybody away. So that was it. That was the first. But the interesting thing about India is that we've had this culture of comedic poetry for like thousands of years. We call it hasya kavita, which is comedic poetry, and it's huge in especially northern parts of India. So I was always accustomed to this, and they would do a very similar setup to stand-up. There'll be a stage. It would be a similar setup to roast, actually. There'll be a line of, I guess, poets sitting at the back, and there'll be one poet who'll get up on stage, and then he would start doing comedic poetry, and the guy sitting at the back will roast him while he's doing it. And that thing has existed in India for like ever. So this stand-up wasn't like a very new idea for us. It was just a bit of a shift from that. So it caught on like fire after that. So right now, the stand-up comedy scene in India is huge, man. It's huge. Like when I go to Delhi, I could do like 5-6 spots a day easy. In Melbourne, I do 5 spots a week. So the comedy scene in Delhi is like 5 times bigger, 10 times bigger than Melbourne. Yeah.
Wow, it's exploded.
It's exploded, man. It's so funny how quickly that's happened. It would like from that Russell Peter thing coming to now, and it's just huge.
What a genius way to make poetry better as well, just to roast them as they're bearing their soul. I think all poetry should have 5 people behind them roasting them as they're describing a meadow. No, that's awesome, man. So tell me about when did you come to Australia?
I came in 2007.
2007.
Yeah.
Were you coming over specifically with the intention of doing stand-up comedy? Were you coming over studying? What was the intention?
So study. That's the usual reason. I came to study. I studied and then started working and stuff. I did my first stand-up set in 2019, so way later than that. Yeah.
So it's a long while before. I mean, you see the early inspiration of Russell Peters.
Yeah.
You've got this comedic poetry background
Yeah.
in India, but what is the circumstances around you getting up for the first time?
So I did try a bit of poetry before that, and it was coming from that same influence of comedic storytelling, comedic poetry. And I tried comedic poetry for a bit before that. This was in India. I'd gone back to India for 4 years between 2007 to 2019. I went back for 5 years. Sorry, not for 5 years. And then I did a bit of comedic poetry there, which was really fun. But then I was like, yeah, whatever, I lost interest. And then I moved back to Australia in 2018. And I moved to Adelaide because my sister was living there. And I don't know if have you been to Adelaide?
I passed through there.
Okay, that's it. That's all you should do, because Adelaide is really
I
boring.
kept the windows up.
There's nothing to do in Adelaide.
Perth background sounds on at full blast. No, it seemed like just another Perth, really.
Yeah.
Very flat, very open.
Probably is, like maybe even a bit more boring. But what? I'm from Melbourne. Fuck you all. So Adelaide, except the 1 month of Adelaide Fringe, when Adelaide is probably the best city in Australia, if not in the fucking world. It's great. Apart from that, there's nothing happening in Adelaide. So I was in Adelaide. I was really bored, and that's when I went and saw an open mic. I was like, let me give this a shot. So that's when I kind of started the stand-up thing. Yeah.
That's great, man. So you see this open mic. I mean, that is a very common story as well. With a lot of stand-up comedians. They see an open mic. They see someone up there bearing their soul and being absolutely terrible. And they think, if that person can do it, I can do it. You get up. You do your first ever 5-minute set. How does it go? How was the experience?
It was I don't know if that's the usual experience. Obviously, the fact that I kept doing it means it went well, right? That first one, if the first one's terrible, I guess you wouldn't do it again.
No, some do. Apparently,
Okay.
some swear by they just was the worst experience of their whole life, but they had to do it again for
Sure. So
some weird
from-
reason. I don't
but-
relate to those people at all, but you must have had at least some encouragement.
Yeah, it worked. It worked. I got decent laughs, and I would like to think I got decent laughs because I was fairly old when I did that, and so I had a decent amount of things to talk about. So I'm 40 right now. So I did 2019. I was like 37 or something. I don't know, 36, 37. So I think when I did my first set, it went decently well, and I was like, fuck, I want to do more of this. I have so many things to say, and this might be the platform to say those things. So yeah.
That's great, man. And then so what was the immediate sort of aftermath of that? Do you then reach out to other open mics in Adelaide? When do you eventually make your way to Melbourne?
So Adelaide has like 2 open mics, at least back then it did. A Rhino Room, and there's Cranker Comedy. So I did those for about a year, and then I did Adelaide Fringe in 2020. This is just before COVID, right? I did Adelaide Fringe, and at that point I realized if I want to take this seriously, I need to move to Melbourne. There's no way I can get better by just doing 2 spots a week. So I decided to move to Melbourne first week of March to do more comedy. 2020,
Right as it hit.
right as it hit, man.
And it's a good thing that Melbourne wasn't too strict with their lockdown laws, you know what I mean? That's a good thing
Dude,
too.
it was. The worst part is I told all my Adelaide friends, like, screw you losers, I'm going to Melbourne, I'll be gigging like crazy, you losers are going to be here. And then 1 year later, I see them posting about gigging, and I'm fucking stuck in my house for I don't know how long, man. But yeah, that's what happened.
That's beautiful. Burn the bridges before you go. Burn the boats. So you're doing that, man. You go through that. Yeah, that's got to be daunting because you're taking this, risk to go and move to a different city to pursue stand-up comedy. I don't know what the relationship's like with the parents, but did you tell them what you were doing? Were you just telling you were studying the whole time? What's going on? What's the news back home in Delhi?
So see, the good thing about being 37 when I did that was I had my shit sorted. I had a career, I had a job.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to ask anyone, or I wasn't even worried about the money aspect. I knew I'd get a job when I move, which I did. So that part was sorted. I think if I was younger, maybe it would have been a harder decision. But at that age, it wasn't that hard a decision. Anyway, Melbourne has more jobs. So it was, if anything, even career-wise, forget comedy, it would be a smarter move to a place like Melbourne. So it honestly wasn't that hard a choice. Yeah.
It aligned with all the goals. I want to know as well, man, every comedian's different. What's your writing process like today? Because obviously you seem like someone who had the foresight to realize, if I want to make this a career, I got to do more than 2 spots a week. You're going over there. How do you implement discipline in your career with stand-up?
Yeah. So again, with writing process, I guess you'd relate to this. I'm still figuring it out, right? I'm trying different shit.
That's why I'm asking.
I'm seeing what's working. I was actually talking to an American comic yesterday who's come here for the Fringe, and I was going through the process. So I think what I'm trying to do now more and more, which I guess you hear a lot from comedians, is that I'm just trying to be more honest, which I don't think I was for the first 3 years of doing it. I was still trying to hack it. But I think that's natural. You naturally try to hack it in the beginning. But now I'm trying to move more towards being honest and trying to talk about shit that I feel strongly about and then making it funny. So first, for the first 3 years, I was doing whatever I thought is funny, and whether I felt strongly or not was not that important. Now I'm shifting that. I'm flipping that. Now whenever I'm writing or thinking about jokes, I'm always thinking, do I first feel strongly about this? And what do I feel strongly about? And then try to make that funny. So that's what I'm trying to do more and more of now. Like, for example, like I have been trying to gain muscle for 10 years, right? And I look like this. So I feel really emasculated when I'm in the gym working out with my empty bar, because I squat with an empty bar, right? Those bars are fucking heavy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're very heavy.
Some say 20 kilos. I think they've definitely creeped a few more on.
Correct. I don't need it to be heavier than that, right? But there's always like this 5 foot tall Asian girl who'll come next to me and squat 100 kgs, and that's just really emasculating. And I'm trying to find what's funny there.
It's emasculating, but it's also very erotic, and I want to find out what gym you're training at and see if I can pass on my details shortly after. But you're alluding to a fact of when you start stand-up comedy, we have to sort of play the game a little bit, and we understand how we present and how to sort of win the easy jokes and get an audience on board. What was that experience like early for you? Obviously being of Indian descent, did you know early on how to sort of generally get the glorious white Aussies on board?
Yeah, 100%, man. That's like, the
chips being delivered right in the middle of your...
nice. No, so just lowball, talking about stuff like I have this bit about how I look Indian as fuck, right? I look so Indian that every time I sit in my car, I can see people around me pulling out their phones to check if a new Uber popped up. It doesn't help that I drive a white Toyota Camry hybrid. So like stuff like that,
Totally.
it works. It gets everybody to laugh. And it's honestly, it's not completely untrue. It has happened to me that I am driving in a car and I slow down and people look at me like, are you my Uber guy? And I'm sure that doesn't happen to like a white guy. And I'm sure it's a very special Indian experience.
It's more just like, is that my accountant? What's going on over there?
I've had a guy sit in my car once when I was parked. I was thinking of getting out or whatever. He just sat in the back seat. He's like, are you my Uber? I was like, no, dude, I'm not. Fuck you.
You missed a great opportunity there. But like, absolutely, man. Where do we, and just start taking him, give him the ride of his life.
I should have, right?
Terrifying.
I should have, yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. So you were trying to move into a lane where you're more honest, writing and communicating about that. What does that look like for you now in 2024? What are you sort of passionate about talking about? What are you trying to move towards other than figuring out how to tackle this strong Asian girl topic there? What are you passionate about now that you want to communicate in your stand-up?
Yeah, I guess what I feel strongly about, mostly I want to start with my I guess mental health and stuff like that. So I suffered as a kid. I suffered from BDD, which was body dysmorphic disorder. I want to talk about that more, but it's really scary. I'm not sure how I will ever make it funny, but I want to try doing that. And I want to talk about the fact that, how I look. And I guess I've been thinking a lot about also just how I feel as an Indian immigrant, conflicted I feel as an Indian immigrant. Like, for example, I got my citizenship last year, 2023, 26th of January.
Congratulations, brother.
Thanks. But the thing with the Indian citizenship is that it doesn't allow dual citizenship. So I had to give up the Indian citizenship to get the Australian one, right? So which I didn't think would be a big deal, but I realized it would be a big deal when I saw my first India versus Australia cricket match in the finals, World Cup finals. And man, I'm not even kidding. I genuinely felt conflicted for the first time. I've always supported India, obviously, but I was like, man, I pledged allegiance to these guys. What do I do now? Like, this is scary.
What are you doing? What did you do?
I honestly, I started with Australia. I was like, all right, I should do the right thing. But I flipped after 10 minutes. Like, what the fuck am I doing? This is stupid. I can't...
Half the face with the Australian flag, half the face with the Indian flag.
I flipped after 10 minutes. I went back to India. I was like, screw the shit.
We forgive you, brother. That's absolutely fine. No problems.
So I think I want to talk more about that. Because I genuinely, I like living here. I think it's a very common experience for immigrants. That, sure, we love Australia, right? Obviously, that's why we're here, right? We love Australia. But, man, we really miss our home. We really miss the country we've come from. We've got so many family there. We have so many memories from there. And it's a really big conflict in our heads, right? And I want to talk about that more. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. I mean, it's obviously a unique experience to the immigrant people, as you alluded to. But look, that's not my experience, but there's a human feeling to that. And I hope you keep going with it, because that'd be a powerful show. I hope you keep exploring that. That'd be really cool. Are you doing, it actually brings us to the show that you're doing now, Don't Call Me a Papadum, for the 2024 Fringe.
Yeah.
Whereabouts are you doing that Fringe? Where can people find tickets for that?
So that one is in Rubik's Bar, Ibis Hotel Rubik's Bar. And yeah, the tickets are on Fringe website. And shows start on the 30th of Jan, and I've got 8 shows. Yeah.
Great, man. And what was that's obviously, we're talking about where the lane you're moving into. What did this show sort of encapsulate for you?
So this is pretty much all my good jokes from the first 3 years, right?
Great.
All put together. They're obviously, as I told you, they're mostly about me being an Indian and me being an immigrant. So I put them all together. The title of the show that comes from this experience that I had in Queensland. When I first moved, I moved to Queensland. And it was my third week there in Gold Coast. And I was walking down a street and a bunch of boys walked right past me. One of them pointed at me and went, hey, look at that papadam, ha, ha, ha. And I was like, at that point, I felt really fucked up. Like I got, I got depressed or whatever. But when I started doing stand-up, I realized, man, papadam really, like, out of all the things in an Indian menu, they choose to call me a papadam. Like, fucking hell, man. There are a lot of really cool things in an Indian menu. Papadam's the most worthless one, isn't it? Papadam is so
flavorless.
They give it out for free. That's how worthless a papadam is, right? So
perhaps therein lies the burn. You know?
Yeah. So that's what initiated this sort of idea of the show name and the show. Yeah.
Great, man.
Yeah.
Well, I hope people get tickets to see that, and especially the new show you're working on,
Cool.
talking about that experience.
Yeah.
But before we go, man, you mentioned you got your citizenship.
Yeah.
They no doubt would have given you like a citizenship test or something like
Yes.
that about the
Yeah.
general
Yeah.
knowledge for Australia.
Yeah.
Well, I have a incredibly racist stand-up quiz that is tailored almost exclusively to Australian and American stand-up comedy.
All right,
But I want to
perfect.
give you a quick quiz on it, man.
Cool. Let's do it.
We can give you the stand-up citizenship if you want. You'll have to revoke your Indian one, unfortunately. That's just the rules.
Sure.
But if you're keen for it, man, we'll jump into it.
Okay.
Go for one. We'll pop a little timer up here as we go. But we're
Cool.
starting off. We've got 14 questions.
Yeah.
Question number 1. A reference to a previous joke or theme later in the routine is called a what?
Call back.
Correct. Number 2. The final phrase or sentence of a joke or story providing the humor or a crucial element is referred to as a what?
Punchline.
Correct. Number 3. Who was the Australian-born comedian with Netflix specials such as Bear, High and Dry, and Intolerant?
Fuck, I know him. Is the guy who had done that joke about gun control.
Absolutely correct. I'm going to give that to you anyway because you know this guy, Jim Jeffries.
Jim Jeffries.
Number 4. A final and often strong joke to finish a comedy set is referred to as a what?
Oh, I don't know. Final joke.
A closer.
Closer.
Closer, there we go. Number 5. Name the city that hosts the world's largest arts festival that runs annually in which many comedians make their mark.
Adelaide.
Adelaide? Oh, you know
No,
what?
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh,
Okay,
but let's say
okay,
Adelaide because
okay.
you're riding dime with Adelaide. I like it. Number 6. Who often referred to as the father of Australian stand-up comedy, famous for his comedic characters that would cross-dress, passed away earlier this in 2023.
Man, I have no idea.
Barry Humphries. And therein lies the racism of this quiz. Number 7. Name the late Australian TV comedic icon that hosted the Logies 18 times and won the Gold
Oh,
Logie 4 times.
Fuck, no idea. Like,
Bert Newton. Number 8. What slang term is used when a comedian is receiving no or negative response to their material?
bombing.
Bombing,
Yeah.
correct. Number 9. What Australian comic won the main prize at Edinburgh Comedy Awards in 2022 for his comedy show simply titled Comedy Show?
Ooh, I have no idea.
Sam Campbell.
Oh, I
Number
should know
10.
that.
What Scottish stand-up comedian received his knighthood in 2017, weeks before his 75th birthday?
No idea.
Billy Connolly. What US stand-up comedian became a Hollywood film star with many on-screen collaborations with The Rock?
Chris. No. Chris Tucker. No. Fucking hell.
Short guy.
Short guy. Yeah.
Squeaky voice.
High.
High energy.
Okay, I know this. Fuck.
His last name is an organ.
Hart. Kevin Hart. Oh,
Kevin
thank
Hart,
you,
yeah.
man. Thank you for giving it to me.
Number 12. What Australian stand-up comedian and TV host had the catchphrase "Say hi to your mum for me"?
No idea.
Rove McManus.
Yeah.
Number 13. A stand-up comedian turned actor Robin Williams won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in the 1997 performance of which film?
Oh,
It's not your fault.
Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting, correct,
Oh,
man.
wow.
And final question, number 14. A person interrupting a performance with comments and or questions is referred to as a what?
Heckler.
Heckler, and I would have accepted cunt. You're a good dude, man. Thank you so much for doing this. Your show, Don't Call Me Papa Dom, live at Fringe now. Good to meet you, man.
Nah, good to meet you too, man. Thanks. I need to fucking brush up on my knowledge for sure.
Brush up on it?
Yeah.
Listen, you're in with us. It's all good. Don't go back to India, I promise.
Thanks, man.